I realized I had messed up the moment I heard myself speak. But by then, it was already too late. Once you say something like that, especially in front of your husband's boss, there's no taking it back. I'm Samantha, 32 years old from Fort Worth, Texas, and this is the story of how a poorly timed joke at a work party flipped my marriage upside down. Last Friday, my husband Ryan, who's 37, invited me to his company's year-end party. Honestly, I wasn't too excited about going. Corporate events always feel awkward, and I never really know how to interact with his coworkers. But Ryan insisted. He said it was important and that it would make a good impression if I came. Fine, I thought. I'll be the supportive wife for one evening. I even spent extra time on my hair and makeup, wore that green dress he likes, and tried my best to look put together, whatever that means. But from the moment we got there, I could tell it was going to be one of those nights where I'd just have to smile and nod through everything. The first hour went okay. We mingled, did the usual small talk about how do you know Ryan with his coworkers, and I kept my best behavior. I had one drink, then another. By the time dinner rolled around, I was actually starting to feel pretty comfortable. Then, he walked in, Mr. Jason, Ryan's boss, the one Ryan is always complaining about at home. Ryan says the guy is always on his case, never happy with anything he does. In my mind, I had this whole image of him being a grumpy, gray-haired micromanager. But to my surprise, Mr. Jason was younger than I expected, probably in his late 40s, and dressed in a sharp suit. He was the kind of guy who commanded attention without even trying. I could see immediately why Ryan was so stressed around him. We were all sitting at a large round table, me, Ryan, his boss, and a few of his coworkers. People were laughing and talking about their holiday plans, and somehow the conversation turned to football. Ryan, being a die-hard Cowboys fan, was all in. But then, I learned Mr. Jason was an Eagles fan. And if you know anything about football, Cowboys and Eagles fans are like oil and water. The two of them started jabbing back and forth, teasing each other, but I could tell Ryan was getting that look on his face. It's the look he gets when he's losing an argument but refuses to admit it. That's when I decided to jump in. I leaned forward, grinned, and said, well, if you spent as much time at home as you do defending the Cowboys, maybe you'd actually win something for once. Suddenly, the table went silent. I could feel the tension in the air. Mr. Jason laughed loudly, slapped the table, and said, I like her. She's got a point. But Ryan? He didn't laugh. He didn't even glance at me. He just sank back in his chair, staring at the table like he was counting to 10 in his head. I knew right then that I should have stopped, but I didn't. Instead, I doubled down. Maybe if you put that much energy into our finances, we wouldn't be fighting over the cable bill every month, I added, thinking I was being funny. Crickets. Mr. Jason just sipped his drink, and one of Ryan's coworkers gave me that awkward, uncomfortable smile. I felt a tap under the table, Ryan's knee bumping mine, a silent shut-up signal. But I ignored it. Don't look at me like that, I said, tilting my head. I'm just joking, you know? I'm joking. No, Samantha, Ryan said quietly, his voice low but sharp, like a knife. You're doing too much. He went back to eating, chewing like he was grinding rocks between his teeth. Nobody else said anything. Just the sound of forks scraping against plates. I tried to laugh it off, but inside, I knew. That gut feeling told me I had gone too far. The rest of dinner was tense. Ryan barely spoke to me. When he did, his responses were short, like one-word answers, yeah, I'm fine. I should have apologized. I knew I should have, but I didn't. I was still in that mindset where I felt justified and he was just overreacting. Then, after dinner, Mr. Jason brought it up again. Man, Samantha, you're funny, he said, patting Ryan on the back. She really keeps you on your toes. But Ryan didn't even try to laugh. He just nodded and said, yep. That's when I realized it wasn't about the joke. It was about respect. I had just embarrassed him in front of the one person he had been trying to impress all year. After dinner, we were all supposed to head to the bar for drinks, but Ryan didn't even ask if I wanted to stay. He just grabbed his coat, turned to me, and said, let's go. I tried to play it off by smiling and waving at everyone, saying, I guess it's my bedtime. But no one laughed. We didn't speak the whole ride home. Not a single word. He drove like he was angry at the gas pedal, his foot heavy, eyes fixed straight ahead, jaw tight. I sat there scrolling through my phone, pretending not to care, but I kept stealing glances at him from the corner of my eye. When we pulled into the driveway, I tried to lighten the mood. "You're really mad over that?" "It was just a joke, Ryan." He sat there for a second, his hands still on the wheel, breathing slowly, like he was trying to calm himself down. Then he turned to me, looked me straight in the eyes, and said, "Nah, Samantha. It's not just the joke." I heard the door slam, and before I could react, Ryan was already outside. He didn't wait for me, didn't hold the door open like he usually does. He just left me sitting in the car, fuming. My heart was pounding as I sat there, part of me angry, the other part still confused. What did I do wrong? It wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just a joke. Guys joke like that all the time. Why is it a problem when I do it? I stayed in the car for a moment, collecting my thoughts before I followed him inside. I was still defensive, ready to argue. But when I walked into the living room, he wasn't there. He was upstairs. I hurried after him, still wearing my heels, calling out to him, "Ryan, seriously? You're really going to act like this?" I found him in our bedroom, packing a bag. "A bag?" I froze for a moment. "What are you doing?" I asked, hands on my hips. "Where are you going?" He zipped up the bag, looked at me with tired eyes, but his expression was firm. "I'm done, Samantha." "Done with what?" I laughed, thinking he was bluffing. "Come on. You're not going anywhere." "Over a joke?" But he didn't respond. He grabbed his bag, brushed past me, and started heading downstairs. I followed him, still trying to convince him. "You're being ridiculous," I said in that sarcastic tone I sometimes can't control, arms crossed. "I'm not chasing you, Ryan. If you want to be stupid, be stupid." He got to the door, turned around, and looked me dead in the eye. "You never know when to stop, Samantha. That's the problem." Then he walked out. I stood there, still thinking he'd come back in a few minutes, but when I heard the sound of his car engine and saw his taillights disappear down the street, that's when it really hit me. He wasn't playing around. I stood by the door for what felt like ages, staring out into the empty street, half expecting him to turn around and come back. I even checked my phone, half expecting a come-outside text. But nothing. Just silence. Finally, I shut the door and locked it like it somehow mattered. I leaned against it, my arms crossed and my teeth biting down on the inside of my cheek. "He'll be back," I kept telling myself. "He always comes back. We've fought before, worse than this, and he's never left for more than an hour." I went upstairs, still in my stupid green dress, the heels clicking on the floor as I walked. I sat on the edge of the bed. His side looked so empty, the pillow still holding the indentation of where he had slept the night before. I stared at it for a while, but instead of feeling sad, I felt frustrated. "He's so dramatic," I muttered. I picked up my phone and sent him a text. "Where you at?" No response. "Okay, so now we're playing hardball," I said to myself, setting the phone down. I got up and walked into the closet, where I noticed the empty spot where his bag used to be. He really took his duffel bag. Like he's going on some kind of trip or something. How ridiculous. My first instinct was to call his mom, but I quickly dismissed it. He hates when I do that. He always says I run to her like I'm tattling on him. But I didn't want to deal with that right now. I knew she'd probably side with him, and I wasn't in the mood for another lecture. So, I called my sister, Emily. She picked up on the third ring. "What's up?" she asked. I sighed and flopped onto the bed. "Ryan's being stupid." "What did you do this time?" she replied, her voice light but teasing. "What did I do?" I sat up, a little offended. "Why do you always assume it's me?" "Because it usually is," she said bluntly. I told her everything. The party, the joke, the whole awkward scene at the table. I downplayed it, making it sound like no big deal, just a little playful back and forth. I threw in a few "he's so sensitive" comments for good measure. Emily's tone shifted. "You said that in front of his boss?" "Yeah," I said, shrugging. "It's not like I lied." Her voice got quieter, more serious. "Samantha, you disrespected him in front of his boss. Men don't play about that. You made him look small." I sat there, silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Okay, but it was just a joke. He's being childish. Was he laughing? She asked. No, I admitted. But. Then it wasn't a joke, she cut in. Her words hung in the air like a truth I couldn't deny. I hated it when she made too much sense. I tried to change the subject. He left, packed a bag and everything. Wait. Wait. He left? Like really left? Emily sounded shocked. Yep, I said, tossing a pillow across the room. Acting like he's done with me or something. But I'm not chasing him. If he wants to throw a tantrum, that's on him. Girl, you might want to fix this, Emily said, her voice softer now. He's not the type to bluff like that. I shrugged. He'll be back. But for the first time, I didn't really believe it. That night, I barely slept. Every little sound outside made me check my phone, thinking it was him. But no, it wasn't. The hours dragged on to midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Still no calls, no texts. Finally, I texted him again. Something petty. So you're just going to ghost me now? Real mature, Ryan. No response. By 3 a.m., I was pacing around the house, muttering under my breath like I was in the middle of a full-blown argument with him. Only he wasn't even there. I replayed the whole thing in my mind. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But then I flipped it. No, he's being soft. He's a grown man, if he can dish it out, he can take it. I ended up falling asleep on the couch, and woke up to the sound of birds chirping. My phone was vibrating on the coffee table. For a split second, I thought it was him. But nope. Just a text from Emily. Any word from Ryan? I didn't even bother answering. I stretched, picked up my phone, and checked. No missed calls. No texts. I promised myself I wouldn't reach out again. He'll come back, I thought. But as the hours went on, that confidence started to wane. By noon, I found myself standing at the kitchen counter, tapping my nails against the countertop, debating whether to call him. I hated being the one to make the first move, but my pride was starting to feel heavy. I noticed his car wasn't in the driveway. Where could he have gone? I called him. It rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. That's what we're doing now? I muttered, shaking my head. Fine. 2 more hours passed. Nothing. I started wondering if he was staying with one of his friends. My first guess was Brandon, his childhood best friend, but I knew better. Brandon's house was basically a frat pad. Ryan wouldn't get any peace there. I thought maybe he'd gone to his brother Adam's place, so I called him. Hey, Samantha, Adam answered, his tone casual. Hey, is Ryan with you? I tried to keep my voice neutral. Nope, haven't seen him. Why? No reason, just checking, I lied, chewing on my thumbnail, trying not to let the panic show. You good? Adam asked, sensing something was off. Yeah, I'm fine. I hung up before he could press further. At that point, a quiet panic started to creep in, not full-blown panic, but that unsettling feeling that maybe I'd misjudged the situation. It wasn't until much later that night when he finally called. I picked up on the first ring, doing my best to sound like I didn't care. Wow. Finally remembered you have a wife? I said, leaning on the kitchen counter. Samantha, he said, his voice calm but ice-cold. We need to talk. So now you want to talk? I shot back, my anger flaring. Where were you last night? Don't do that, he cut me off. I'm not playing games with you. Playing games? You're the one who stormed out like a teenager. I stormed out because I'm tired, Samantha. Tired of being embarrassed by you. I froze, caught off guard. No comeback for that one. Look, he continued, his voice still flat, I'm not coming back home tonight. I'm staying at my mom's for a while. I need space. Space? I let out a humorless laugh. Space for what? You act like I cheated on you or something. No, you didn't cheat, he said, his voice slower now, careful. But you break me down like you want me to feel small. I'm not living like that anymore. My chest tightened. Wow. So now I'm the bad guy? I said, fully sinking into the victim role. You're walking away from our marriage because of a joke? He sighed. I could hear him rubbing his face, just like he always did when he was frustrated. This isn't just about last night, Samantha. It's everything. The way you talk to me. The way you act like you're always right. I can't win with you. I'm done trying. I felt my heart start to race. You're really doing this? I asked, my voice cracking. You're really throwing away our marriage? No, he replied, his voice steady, though it stung. You threw it away. I'm just walking away from the mess. The line went dead before I could say anything more. I sat there, frozen, phone still pressed to my ear as if he might pick up again. He didn't. I stayed like that for a long time, staring at the call-ended screen, waiting for it to somehow change. My throat was tight, but I didn't cry. I don't cry over stuff like this. He'll be back, I told myself. He always comes back. But this time, something felt different. I called him back. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail again. I wasn't about to leave a message. I wasn't that desperate. I scrolled through my contacts and hovered over Emily's name. I almost dialed her, but then I stopped. I knew exactly what she'd say, that I pushed him too far, and I didn't have the energy to hear it. So, I sat alone instead. By the second day, I could feel a shift in me. That heavy feeling in my chest. You know the one, when you start replaying everything in your mind and finally hear what the other person actually said. His words echoed in my head over and over like a song stuck on repeat. You break me down like you want me to feel small. I'm not living like that anymore. I'm done trying. I hated those words, because for the first time, I couldn't spin them into something that made me feel better. I couldn't blame him for being too sensitive or dramatic. It wasn't him this time. It was me. But even then, my pride wouldn't let me call him. Instead, I did something worse. I posted on Facebook. Funny how people think they're the victim when they're the problem all along. Stay gone if you want to. I'm good over here. I threw in a selfie for good measure, looked all dolled up like I had somewhere important to be, even though I hadn't left the house in 2 days. I sat back and watched the comments pour in. Girl, you deserve better. If he can't handle you at your worst, he doesn't deserve you at your best. Exactly the kind of energy I wanted. Validation on demand. A couple of friends texted me, and I soaked it up like dessert. Yeah, I'm good. I'm always good. But then the third night came, and the phone stayed silent. No texts. No missed calls. Nothing. It was like I didn't exist anymore. And that's when I broke. I found myself standing in front of our wedding photo on the mantel, just staring at it. My smile in the picture looked forced now. His eyes looked tired, and I couldn't unsee it. I never noticed it before, but now, it was glaring. Was he tired then, too? I sat on the couch with that photo in my lap, turning it over in my hands. The back had the date written in Sharpie, April 22, 2016. I ran my thumb over the date, trying to convince myself none of this was my fault. I gave him everything, right? I cooked, I cleaned, I stayed with him when he had nothing. I held it down. But there was another voice inside me, louder than the others. The one that didn't need Emily or anyone else to point out the truth. It whispered, you never apologized. I ignored it. I flipped the photo back over and set it down on the coffee table. I didn't owe him an apology. He was the one who overreacted. He's a grown man. He could have stayed and talked it out, but instead, he ran off like a kid. That was on him. That's what I kept telling myself. But by the 5th night, I realized I messed up. No texts. No calls. Not even a simple "how are the kids?" And that's when I knew it was serious. Even when we argued, Ryan always made sure to check in on the kids. I knew he loved them more than anything, and the fact that he hadn't reached out made my heart race in a way it hadn't before. I tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. This time, I left a message. I wanted to sound strong, but halfway through, my voice cracked. Hey, I was just calling to see how you're doing. The kids miss you, so, yeah. Just call me back or whatever. Click. I hated how weak I sounded. I hated how real everything was starting to feel. A week later, a random guy in a polo shirt showed up at my front door with divorce papers. Just like that. Like it was any other Tuesday. He handed them over, and I'd snatched them out of his hands, slamming the door behind him. Unbelievable, I muttered, tearing open the papers. He's really doing this over a stupid argument? I skimmed through the papers, but I couldn't bring myself to really read them. It didn't feel real. People argue all the time, right? People say things they don't mean. People get over it. At least, that's what I told myself. But apparently, Ryan didn't feel that way. A month passed, and I convinced myself it was all part of some game. A power move to make me chase him. Classic Ryan. He'd cave. But then I saw her. One night, I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw it, her. A picture of Ryan and some woman named Brittany, tagged together. She was blonde, skinny, the type who probably gets up at 5 in the morning to do yoga. I clicked on her profile, and of course, it was wide open. Rookie mistake. Her bio read blessed beyond measure. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought I'd get dizzy. But then I saw it. A picture of them at a restaurant. Ryan had his arm around her, smiling like I hadn't seen him smile in years. Bigger than any smile he'd ever given me. The caption? So thankful for this man every day. This man. This man. My chest started to burn, and I sat up straighter, scrolling through every single post, every tag, every heart emoji. It felt like I was digging through my own grave. This woman, Brittany, was living the life I built. She was eating the food I taught him to like. She was enjoying the rewards of all my hard work. And Ryan didn't even pause. He didn't even grieve. He just moved on. I clicked on his page. Nothing. He never even mentioned the divorce. Not a single post about finding peace or freedom. Just silence. But that picture on Brittany's page? That picture said it all. I sat there, my jaw clenched so tightly I could feel the tension in my temples. My first instinct was to post something back on Facebook, another status, something sharp, something petty. It's always the healed ones who forget who helped them heal. I hit post and watched the likes roll in, just like before. Validation on demand. It felt good for a second. Really good. But that feeling didn't last. By midnight, I deleted the post. Not because I regretted it, but because I didn't want him to see it. And that's when it hit me. Ryan wasn't going to see it. He wasn't checking for me. He didn't care. Brittany was laughing at something he said while I was staring at my phone. The next day, I called my lawyer. If he was moving on that quickly, then I wasn't going to lose quietly. If he thought he could just move on like it was nothing, I was going to make it as difficult as possible. You want to act happy, Ryan? Fine. Let's see how happy you are when I get my half. I didn't want him back anymore. In fact, I didn't want him at all. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want him to feel something. And if I couldn't have him, I was going to make sure his new little blessed beyond measure girlfriend knew exactly what she'd signed up for.